What is up, everybody? I am Kevin Iole. Thank you for joining me. Joining me right now is Della Maddalena. Jack will be fighting Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight championship. And if you follow Jack's career, you can see he's a boxer. He's got a ton of knockouts, but that's not all this guy can do. There's rumors that he can do other things. Jack, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that nice introduction.
I appreciate you. Well, tell me, we know you're a black belt in jujitsu, but there's a video out I saw on Mac Life on the internet of you choking Craig Jones
Oh
unconscious.
yeah,
And if
yeah.
anybody knows Craig Jones, they
It's a
know two
nice,
things. He's one of
it
the
was a nice
best. And
short choke, that one.
so what's
Yeah, he
going on there?
taught
Was
me
that a
that
joke
one.
or what?
No comment.
Yeah, we know Craig likes to fool around, but that gave you a little bit of extra buzz. But let's talk about this fight because, obviously it seems like Belal as the champion has really gained a lot of confidence. His wrestling has been so good for so long. But as he talked about in the last fight, Canelo style with his hands, do you see his hands as a threat to you, a guy that's got 12 knockouts?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a threat, you know. Or everything he's got is a threat. It's just about I feel like I can mitigate that threat pretty comfortably. Feel like I'll be able to control the range. I think I'll be the one landing the shots that are doing the damage in the fight.
I almost wonder, like sometimes, can you want to be confident, but can you be too confident? And I wonder if, like, going up against, he fought Leon Edwards, who was a striker, and now he's fighting you, who was a striker. Can you get too comfortable with, your success in that area and forget about what made you great? Do you think
Yeah,
that's
you
something?
definitely can. You definitely can. I don't I think Bilal will be coming in. I think he'll be coming in. He understands the threat, I believe. He's a winner, you know. He's put together a big win streak. I think it'll be a big mistake on his behalf if he underestimates me. And I think he's smarter than that. I think he's coming in. I think this will be the best Bilal we've got so far, and that's what I'm expecting.
As you come, we're preparing to fight Leon Edwards before the change, and you got the thing. Like, what was your idea how 25 would play out? Did you feel like a title shot was in the cards with a win over Edwards, or how did you view it before you actually got the call that Shavkat was out and you were going to move up?
Yeah, I always thought, yeah, the if I had beaten Bilal, Leon, would have been thinking maybe in that number one contender spot. But you've also like you never know. There's a lot of good contenders in the division, you know, and anyone can get the shot. So just to get that opportunity was obviously a dream come true. And yeah, I was happy to take it because anything can happen in the game, and when an opportunity like that presents itself, you got to jump on it. But yeah, I was definitely thinking. My plan was even after the Gilbert fight was to be fighting for a world title soon. I feel like if the injury hadn't have happened and I was able to stay active last year, then I feel like I would be in the same sort of spot. I'd be fighting for a title about now.
Hmm.
Maybe, yeah. But I'm ready to go. I'm blessed for the opportunity, and now it's time to do the thing.
You have won 17 in a row, which is incredible. Lose your first two in your career and then reel off 17 in a row, which anybody who knows MMA knows how hard it is to win two in a row, let alone 17 in a row. And I want to ask you this because I was in Australia for the first UFC event, which I believe was 2010, so
Wow.
15 years ago. And there were barely any Australians on that card, right? It didn't seem
Yeah.
like MMA was a big deal down there. How has it changed over the years that you have been competing and the growth in terms of the sport in Australia?
Yeah, it's grown massively, you know. It's the levels come up so much. Like you see some of the even the amateur fights now, like they're pretty high level matches. They're people like the amateurs a lot of the amateurs you watch fight and you think, yeah, they could definitely do fine in the pro ranks. There's a lot more gyms around. It's a buzzing sport, you know. I think it's a great sport for young people, you know. Obviously, I can only speak on my like young men. I think it's a great sport for, you know, gets people focused, gets them discipline, keeps people out of trouble. So I think it's and Australia itself is a competitive place. There's a culture around sport and like working hard and physicality. So I think it's just it's a match, you know. I think fighting resonates with Australians, and you see that now. Now the UFC fights in Australia are stacked, you know, stacked
Right.
with UFC fights. Yeah, UFC fighters. Every fight on the card has got almost has an Australian on it.
No
So
doubt. Yeah.
yeah, and
And
doing well as
champion
well.
and
Not just
champions. Yeah, that's
yeah, of
exactly.
course, yeah, not just there for the tracksuit, there to for belts and top ranks.
What got you into it? How did you get attracted to MMA?
Just watching it, videos. I think, yeah, seen a few videos, the PlayStation game, and just yeah, that sort of thing. Just training. It was saw it with my brother, and then it was definitely something that we enjoyed. The look of. Seemed like it was right into what we were into, so we just built a love from it from that.
As you start this MMA journey, and there's so many champions that have lost their first fight, right, and then gone on to win championships. Chris Cyborg was one I think of. She lost her first
Yeah,
fight and won like 20 some in a row,
yeah,
right?
and Henan Barrow, he did the same.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them that did that. What is it about the mental resilience it takes to come from losing a couple of fights like that? And, in your case, you're 0 and 2, and you got to be thinking, hey, what's going on here? You were knocked out, you were submitted, and then you
yeah,
realize 17 freaking wins in a row. That's impressive.
yeah. I went in there. I didn't have a massive amateur career, so just went into the pro ranks at a young age and for tough fights, you know, first two fights. And it's a hard sport to, yeah, as you said, it's a hard sport to win, you know. So it's good and you learn so much from losses. So I've always just seen it as in like I was fortunate enough to get the losses out the way early and then
Yeah.
no more. There will be no more losses, just wins to get them on the back foot. But I mean, after that loss, the second loss, yeah, just still love the sport, still love training, love competing. And my coaches just said, no, you've got more to give. So sort of, yeah, it made me believe that I did have more to give and then just kept racking wins.
Was that third fight where you won and you turned it around? Was that critical? Like, because if you lose that fight, then do you say, maybe not, right? Like, so
Yeah,
did
for
that was that
sure.
the one that pushed you over the edge?
Yeah, I think so. There's a bit of pressure going into that third one, bit of pressure because, yeah, if you lost that, then I probably would have just had to come to the realization that it wasn't for me, which would have been a shame. But yeah, I just went in there motivated, fire in my belly, and I just wasn't going to let anything get in the way, you know. And I'd learned so much from both the previous losses. So yeah, I was just raring and tearing, ready to go in that fight.
I want to ask you this now that you're going into a title fight. Dana always talks about the jitters in the UFC for newcomers, right? But I also think it's got to be true of a championship fight, right? You're going up another level and just the stakes involved. How do you remain calm through that? Like, how do you deal with the butterflies and all the angst of, going into the, world championship fight?
Yeah, I feel I haven't really felt much different, you know. Obviously, there's a bit of a buzz and there's a lot on the line, but I just feel like it's another fight. Obviously, the 5 rounds adds a different aspect to the fight itself, but I just look at it. I'm fighting Belal, a 5 rounder, and I believe I can beat him. So haven't got too many of the jitters yet. Obviously, come fight night, I don't think it's going to affect me. I think it'll be business as usual.
Sure.
A little bit of an extra intro from Bruce, but nothing like a bit of extra Bruce time will be nice in the
Yeah.
cage. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna go in there as usual, calm, cool, collected, and go take him out.
Lastly, let's look at this. Like, how do you see the fight going? Fighters always kind of, say what they think is going to happen. Bilal's talking about using his hands in this fight. Do you expect him to do that, or do you expect, him to, he's been wrestling heavy whenever he's fought strikers. Look at his Leon Edwards fight, right? I mean, is that what you expect from him? A wrestling heavy approach?
I think so. I think he'll go back to his bread and butter, which is sort of get holding people down, riding out the clock, and just gaining control time. I do, yeah. I think he will maybe try and dip the toes in the striking. So obviously, the fight starts on the feet. And I think he
Right.
will dip the toes in the striking, but I think I'll be able to outclass him on the feet, and he'll resort back to his usual ways. which I believe I'll be able to stop the takedowns. I believe I'll be able to stop the takedown and force him to fight a stand-up fight.
Sure, no doubt. Well, sounds good. Bell Center is a great place to fight. What a great atmosphere in that arena. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Jack Della Maddalena fighting Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight championship at UFC 315 on May 10th. Jack, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you,
Thanks,
brother. Good
Kevin.
luck.
Pleasure, man. Thank
Good
you.
to see you. Be
We'll
well.
talk